Dalia Dippolito wanted everything: money, freedom, and the perfect life. And she was willing to kill her husband, Michael Dippolito, to get it. But what she didn't know was that every step of her plan was being recorded. Every lie was being watched. And the man she thought was dead was about to walk back into the room alive. Dalia Dippolito seemed to have everything a woman could want: a beautiful home in Boynton Beach, Florida, a shiny new car parked in the driveway, and a husband who adored her. To everyone around her, she was the picture of success. Her smile was bright, her manners polished, and she seemed to have mastered the art of charm. But behind her carefully crafted image, a dark ambition was growing. Dalia wasn't interested in love or loyalty. She was interested in money, power, and control. What looked like a happy marriage to outsiders was, in truth, a ticking bomb waiting to explode. Michael Dippolito had worked hard to build a stable life. He wasn't perfect. He had a past filled with mistakes and bad decisions. But he was trying to move forward. When he met Dalia, he thought she was a fresh start. She was beautiful, attentive, and seemed to understand him better than anyone ever had. Within months, he was head over heels, convinced she was the one. Their whirlwind romance ended in a wedding that seemed almost too perfect to be real. But for Dalia, marriage wasn't about happiness. It was about opportunity. Once she had the ring, Dalia began to reveal her true nature. She wanted more than what Michael could give her. The house wasn't big enough, the car wasn't new enough, and the money wasn't fast enough. No matter what he did, it was never enough to satisfy her. Michael saw her frustration as stress, maybe even normal new-lead pressure. He didn't realize that while he was trying to make her happy, she was already imagining a life without him, a life funded by his death. Her plan began in silence. She started by making small, calculated moves. She encouraged Michael to put assets in her name, subtly shifting ownership of things they both shared. She talked about insurance policies and investments, pretending to be the responsible wife planning for the future. Behind that sweet tone, however, she was setting up the foundation for what she thought would be the perfect crime. The idea of collecting money after his death grew more appealing with every passing day. To her, it wasn't murder, it was business. Dalia didn't act out of sudden rage or passion. Her actions were cold and deliberate. She began to test the waters by spreading rumors about her husband. She told friends and neighbors that he was involved in illegal activities. She hinted that she was scared for her safety. These lies weren't random. They were designed to make people believe that if something ever happened to Michael, she had nothing to do with it. Each story she told painted her as a victim and him as a man spiraling out of control. In private, she began searching for ways to make her plan real. She reached out to acquaintances, asking subtle questions about people who could handle problems. Her tone was calm, her intentions hidden behind vague words. She believed she was smarter than everyone else, confident that her charm could get her anything she wanted. In her mind, everything was falling into place. She would soon be free, wealthy, and in control. The irony was that Dalia didn't realize she was being watched long before she even made her move. Someone close to her had already sensed something wrong. Her odd behavior, her constant questions, the strange way she talked about her husband. That person reached out to the authorities, setting off a chain of events that would change everything. As Dalia sat in her living room, planning how to make her fantasy a reality, detectives were already mapping out a sting operation. They were patient, waiting for her to take the final step. While she believed she was orchestrating the perfect scheme, she was walking straight into a trap designed just for her. Her life of luxury, her fake charm, and her carefully constructed lies were about to crumble. But at that moment she didn't know it. She still believed she was in control, unaware that her every move was being watched, recorded, and prepared as evidence. The woman who thought she could manipulate everyone around her was about to become the center of one of the most unbelievable true crime cases Florida had ever seen. The next step in Dalia's plan unfolded quietly, without hesitation or fear. She had already made up her mind. In her eyes, Michael's death was just a matter of planning and precision. All she needed was someone who could make it happen. Someone willing to get their hands dirty while she remained far from suspicion. Her search led her to a man she believed was capable of handling the job discreetly. What she didn't realize was that this man had already gone to the police after hearing her intentions. The police saw an opportunity to catch her in the act, and they decided to set up a sting operation that would later become one of the most talked about undercover cases in the country. When Dalia first met the supposed hitman, she didn't hesitate for even a moment. She spoke with confidence, as though ordering something simple, not planning a murder. The undercover officer listened carefully as she described everything in chilling detail. She didn't stutter, didn't look nervous, and didn't show the slightest sign of guilt. She explained where Michael would be, how the house was set up, and how she wanted everything to look like a robbery gone wrong. She promised a large payment and even gave him directions to their home. Every second of that conversation was being recorded. Police officers monitoring the sting couldn't believe how calm she was. Most people caught in situations like that show hesitation or fear, but Dalia treated it like a business transaction. Her tone never changed, her smile never faded. It was as if she had rehearsed the entire thing in her mind 100 times. The more she spoke, the clearer it became. She didn't see Michael as a human being anymore. To her, he was just a problem that needed to be erased. After the meeting, Dalia drove away feeling completely confident. She had convinced herself that she had outsmarted everyone. In her mind, the plan was flawless. Soon she would be the grieving widow, the woman left behind to rebuild after tragedy. She imagined herself receiving sympathy, attention, and of course, Michael's money. She even practiced what she would say to police officers, preparing the story she would tell. Every move was rehearsed. Meanwhile, investigators were preparing the next phase of the operation. They wanted to make sure that when Dalia was confronted, there would be no room for denial. They decided to stage an entire fake crime scene, a dramatic setup that would make her believe Michael was dead. The goal was to capture her genuine reaction, the moment she thought she had gotten away with murder. Over the next few days, Dalia went about her life as usual. She smiled at neighbors, posted pictures online, and acted like everything was perfectly normal. She didn't know that detectives were watching her every move, documenting her behavior as part of their growing case. Every phone call, every meeting, every detail added another layer of evidence. Then came the morning of the sting. The police positioned themselves near her home early, preparing the scene. They used yellow tape, squad cars, and fake investigators to make everything look authentic. A few officers played the roles of concerned responders, while others filmed from hidden cameras. They made sure the setup looked as real as possible. Every detail mattered. When they were ready, they called Dalia and told her to come home immediately. She was told there had been a terrible incident and that she needed to speak with police right away. Dalia's heart must have raced, not from fear or sadness, but from excitement. She believed this was the moment her plan had succeeded, that she was about to step into her new life. As she drove toward her house, she had no idea that the cameras were already rolling and that her every word and gesture would soon become evidence of her guilt. What she thought was a carefully controlled plan was now completely out of her hands. The stage was set, the trap was ready, and in just a few hours, the woman who thought she could control everything would find herself caught in a web from which she could never escape. The morning sun shone brightly over Boynton Beach as police cars surrounded the Dippolito residence. Yellow tape fluttered in the wind, cameras were hidden at strategic points, and officers moved quickly to make everything look convincing. The fake crime scene was so realistic that even neighbors believed something terrible had happened. The trap was perfectly set, and now all they needed was Dalia to arrive. Moments later, she pulled up in her car, dressed neatly as always, expecting to see a police presence and ready to play the part of a heartbroken wife. Officers met her outside the house and told her what she had been waiting to hear, that her husband had been killed. The news was delivered with believable emotion, and her reaction was caught on multiple cameras. Dalia's face twisted in shock as she covered her mouth, crying out in disbelief. To anyone watching, it looked like genuine grief. She sobbed, held her head, and stumbled as officers helped her sit down. It was a flawless performance, the kind of reaction she had probably rehearsed in front of a mirror. But to the trained eyes of investigators, there was something off. Her reaction seemed too controlled, too calculated, as if she was playing a role instead of feeling real sorrow. They watched her closely, noting how quickly she recovered and began asking questions. They saw no panic, no confusion, only someone eager to move the story forward. After several minutes, officers told her they needed her to come to the station to answer a few questions. She agreed immediately, still maintaining her act of a grieving widow. Inside the police department, cameras continued recording. Dalia sat across from detectives, her face still pale from her staged shock. She answered questions calmly, sometimes even smiling politely. She spoke about her husband in the past tense, as though she had already moved past the loss. But while she was trying to look innocent, something unexpected was about to happen that would destroy her carefully crafted plan. A detective entered the room, holding a small file, and then leaned forward with a quiet seriousness. He told her there had been a development in the case, that someone wanted to see her. Before Dalia could respond, the door opened and Michael Dippolito walked in, alive. The man she believed was dead stood right in front of her. Her face changed instantly. The tears stopped, the act collapsed, and confusion spread across her expression. For a moment she was speechless. Then she began insisting that it was all a misunderstanding, that she didn't know what was going on. But the evidence was undeniable. The detectives had everything: video recordings of her meeting with the undercover officer, audio tapes of her planning the murder, and now the footage of her pretending to cry over her husband's fake death. The moment she realized she had been caught, her confidence vanished. The calm, composed woman from the parking lot was gone, replaced by someone desperate to escape the truth. Meanwhile, Michael stood quietly in disbelief. He had been cooperating with the police throughout the entire operation, struggling to understand how the woman he loved could plot to kill him. Seeing her face when she realized he was alive gave him no satisfaction, only a deep, painful sense of betrayal. Everything he thought was real had been a lie. As officers led Dalia out of the interrogation room, the cameras kept rolling. Outside, news crews were already gathering. Word of the shocking sting operation was spreading fast. Within hours, the footage of her fake breakdown and arrest would be seen by millions online. People couldn't believe what they were watching. A woman caught red-handed trying to orchestrate her husband's murder, only to be exposed in front of the entire world. The story that had begun as a private plan of greed and deception had now turned into a public spectacle. Dalia's name would soon be known everywhere, not as a grieving widow, but as the woman whose perfect crime fell apart in the most dramatic way possible. The video of Dalia Dippolito's arrest spread across the internet like wildfire. Within hours, it was being replayed on television, analyzed on talk shows, and shared endlessly online. People couldn't believe what they were seeing: a woman so calm and confident, caught on camera arranging her husband's murder, and then pretending to be heartbroken when told he was dead. The footage from the police sting became one of the most shocking examples of deception ever recorded. Dalia, who once believed she could outsmart everyone, was now the center of national humiliation. As the investigation continued, more evidence surfaced. Detectives presented recordings of her meetings with the undercover officer, where she spoke clearly and without hesitation about killing Michael. Her tone was casual, as if she were discussing something as ordinary as fixing a car or planning a trip. On one recording, she confirmed she was absolutely sure about going through with it. That phrase alone became a haunting symbol of her cold determination. When the case went to trial, the courtroom was packed. Reporters filled every seat, eager to witness what had become one of Florida's most infamous murder-for-hire cases. Dalia sat at the defense table, perfectly dressed, her expression calm and distant. Her attorneys argued that everything had been a misunderstanding, that she had been manipulated, and that the whole situation was not what it appeared to be. They claimed she had been part of a twisted setup, possibly even a reality show prank gone wrong. It was a bold defense, but the prosecution had something stronger: undeniable proof. The jury watched the undercover videos in silence. They saw Dalia smiling as she discussed the payment, nodding as the fake hitman repeated the plan, and expressing no hesitation when asked if she was sure. The contrast between her behavior in those recordings and her emotional breakdown at the staged crime scene was staggering. Every second of footage revealed her true personality: calculated, composed, and completely unremorseful. Her defense team tried to shift blame, saying that Michael had orchestrated the sting to frame her, that she had been pressured into saying things she didn't mean, that it was all a performance. But none of those explanations could erase what was on tape. Jurors didn't see a victim. They saw someone who had planned a murder and only showed emotion when caught. Throughout the trial, Dalia remained strangely detached. At times she appeared confident, even amused, as if she believed she could still talk her way out of it. But every witness, every piece of evidence, and every recording closed the walls tighter around her. The undercover officer described how she had detailed Michael's schedule, discussed where he should be shot, and confirmed that she wanted no witnesses. Detectives explained how they had built the operation step by step to catch her before anyone got hurt. After days of testimony and endless media coverage, the jury reached its decision. Dalia Dippolito was found guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. The courtroom was silent as the verdict was read, the cameras capturing her face as her confident smile finally faded. The woman who once believed she could control every situation now faced the reality of a long prison sentence. Her attorneys immediately appealed, leading to years of retrials and legal debates. Dalia claimed she had been set up, that the police had manipulated her into saying things she didn't mean, but each time the evidence was too strong to ignore. Finally, in 2017, she was sentenced to 16 years in prison for the public. The case became more than just another crime story. It became a warning about the dangers of greed and arrogance. Dalia had believed her beauty and intelligence could shield her from consequences. Instead, her downfall became a lesson in how quickly lies unravel when exposed to the truth. Even after the verdict, she maintained her innocence, refusing to admit guilt. But the world had already seen everything it needed to see. The recordings told the story better than any words could. The woman who thought she had written her own script had instead been caught in one of the most unforgettable traps in true crime history. Years passed, but the story of Dalia Dippolito refused to fade. Even after her conviction, people couldn't stop talking about the woman who tried to have her husband murdered and ended up exposed in front of the entire world. Documentaries, talk shows, and online discussions continued to dissect every detail of her case. To many, it wasn't just the crime itself that fascinated them. It was her shocking composure. The way she looked directly into the camera and calmly ordered a killing as if it were nothing. The case became one of the most chilling examples of manipulation and greed in modern true crime history. Inside prison, Dalia's once glamorous life disappeared completely. The designer clothes, the jewelry, the luxury, all gone. What remained was the image of a woman whose arrogance had led her straight into disaster. Still, she maintained her innocence, claiming that everything had been staged, that she had been tricked into participating in what she believed was a fake scenario for television. She said she thought it was part of a reality show, not a real murder plot. But no matter how many times she told that story, few believed her. The recordings and videos were too clear, too convincing. Meanwhile, Michael Dippolito tried to rebuild his life. For a long time, he avoided the spotlight, trying to heal from the betrayal that nearly cost him his life. The memory of that moment, walking into the police station and seeing his wife's face when she realized he was alive, never left him. He had trusted her completely, believing in the illusion of their love. Her plan had nearly destroyed him, not just physically but emotionally. Yet, he managed to move forward, finding peace in the fact that justice had been served. For investigators, the case remained one of their most memorable. The sting operation was so flawlessly executed that it became a textbook example of how to handle murder for hire situations. Every step had been carefully planned, every angle recorded. Their preparation had not only saved a man's life but also prevented a cold-blooded killer from walking free. Many of the officers involved would later describe it as the most surreal case of their careers. Watching a woman so casually order her husband's death, then cry on cue in front of their fake crime scene. Outside the courtroom, the public fascination with Dalia only grew stronger. She became a symbol of how appearances can deceive. People couldn't reconcile the image of a polite, soft-spoken woman with the horrifying reality of her actions. Commentators called her manipulative, calculating, and narcissistic. Others speculated that she had convinced herself she could get away with anything. Every clip, every photograph, every courtroom sketch became part of a larger story about control, greed, and delusion. Even behind bars, Dalia managed to draw attention. She gave interviews, maintained contact with supporters, and tried to keep her name alive in the media. Some saw her as desperate for attention, still clinging to the spotlight that had once defined her. She spoke of starting over, of being misunderstood, of wanting forgiveness. But the public had already made up its mind. To most people, she wasn't a victim, she was the villain in her own story. Her case continued to be referenced in discussions about deception and manipulation in relationships. It served as a warning about how easily trust can be exploited and how greed can twist even the closest bonds into something deadly. Dalia's story became a cautionary tale, told not just as a crime story, but as a psychological study of control and self-destruction. In the end, the woman who thought she had orchestrated the perfect crime became the face of failure. Her downfall wasn't just because of her actions. It was her arrogance, her belief that she could outsmart everyone, including the police. She underestimated how quickly a lie can unravel when the truth is watching from behind a camera lens. Today, the name Dalia Dippolito stands as a reminder of how greed and manipulation can destroy everything. Her story continues to circulate, hauntingly preserved in video clips and courtroom footage. She wanted a life of wealth and freedom, but what she received instead was a lifetime of notoriety and shame. The perfect plan she once believed would make her untouchable became the very thing that exposed her to the world.